I am buying too many books. Happy Independence Day. It's July 4th, so I hope you didn't blow off any fingers. Today, instead of doing super patriotic things, I went to a book sale because a local bookstore was closing one of their branches, and so everything was half off. Half Price Books is a local independent chain to the Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky area, and their Northgate location was doing a big Independence Day closing sale, so everything was 50% off today. So we got there 2 hours late. It opened at 10 a.m. and I think we got there at noon. And once we got there, everything was completely sold out. I made a beeline for the fantasy shelf and they were already completely sold out. My fiance is recording this video for me very graciously. And he made a beeline for the game section and they were also mostly sold out. But we were able to get some pretty good stuff, so I thought I'd unbox it. And also reorganize my TBR shelf, which is why I'm sitting in front of the other bookshelf today. My brother made these for me, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, we got some cool stuff. Again, I'm procrastinating on writing. Next weekend we're going to a book sale and book festival in Columbus, and after that I'm going on a book buying ban. So then you can tell me to get my act together and get my words done for NaNoWriMo. Allegedly this is a NaNoWriMo vlog. So should we start with the games or should we start with the books?
Whatever you want.
The total damage for today was $143, which is pretty good considering it's a box of this size. I don't know, I'm pretty happy with this. But we got, what is this?
It's South Park, The Stick of Truth.
South Park game? I don't even know what that is. Fable 2. Oh, there's multiple things here. Monster Hunter World. Xbox. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Dead Island. Halo Reach. Assassin's Creed Revelations. Assassin's Creed... I don't see a subtitle.
It's probably the first one.
Xbox 360 Platinum Hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people at the front desk were saying that they had a whole box and people stole the cases, but they didn't steal the games. I don't know why people do that.
It's because they, with all the disc media, they keep it in drawers behind the counter. So people were thinking they were stealing the game, but they just stole the box.
Interesting. And then there was a whole bunch of DVDs too, so we got those. We got Mad Max Fury Road. We have... This is covered by the sticker.
It's a James Bond movie
James
set.
Bond movie set. Very cool. I've seen none of these. The X-Files. Season 8? Is it season 8? Or is it 8? The complete 8th season, yeah.
Yeah.
The Simpsons. All 3 Matrix. And King Kong. So, we like physical media. We like being able to not have our stuff go missing whenever streaming services decide it doesn't deserve to exist anymore. So, that'll be a nice addition to the collection. And then most of the books are mine. I found a bunch of nice non-fiction books. I found a Painting Buildings in Watercolor. Whenever we go traveling, Eric likes to take a bunch of pictures of all the scenery, and so I thought this would be fun. So this is my non-fiction zone for now, but I'll reorganize. We also like cooking a lot, and so we like making different types of cuisine. So we got an Irish cookbook. That'll go in this pile. And Japanese cooking. And a Korean cookbook, just to try different cuisines, so that's fun. And I thought this was really cool. It's an Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, with all of the original illustrations, but it's annotated by Lewis Carroll. So the text itself only takes up part. Oh, this is like a storybook, like in the library. Here, Bill, the master says you've got to go down the chimney. Oh, so Bill's got to come down the chimney, has he? Said Alice to herself. Okay, I'm not being silly. But it's got little annotations next to it of Lewis Carroll looking back and telling like why he wrote the story the way he did, which I think is super fun. I loved this book when I was a little kid. I read it way too many times, and so I think having the full version is super fun. I actually spent most of my time in the children's section because when I moved here from home, I left most of my children's books at home with my younger siblings, so I don't have them here. And so I was feeling very nostalgic. I have this book, I actually haven't read this one before. It's called Wildwood by Colin Malloy and illustrations by Carson Ellis. I just think the illustrations on the front cover are super cute. But the synopsis on the back sounds very similar to Runaways. It's about a girl whose brother is taken by a murder of crows into the impassable wilderness, a forest on the edge of Portland, and no one's gone in or at least returned to tell of it. And so Prue and her friend Curtis go deep into the impassable wilderness to rescue her brother. And that's very similar to the premise of Runaways, which is that Hannah goes into the wilderness to rescue her sister Cecilia from the Fae. So I want to read this and just have maybe another comp panel for Runaways, but I don't know. I think all the illustrations are super cute. And for being a kid's book, it's pretty hefty, so I'm looking forward to reading that. I'm running out of room on my TBR shelf, so I'm going to have to reorganize. And then I also picked up a bunch of classics that I don't currently have copies of. I have Gulliver's Travels, by Jonathan Swift. Is this illustrated? This is illustrated. I think these are woodcut block illustrations. I got Harper Lee Ghost at a Watchman. Of course, we all read To Kill a Mockingbird in high school, 9th grade English class, but I never read her other work, so I thought this would be good nerd homework, so to speak. A lot of authors, we only ever read one of their books in English class, but we never read the rest of their bodies of literature, so I thought this would be an interesting read. A couple more childhood nostalgia books. My Side of the Mountain was a story that I grew up on. It's about a kid who runs away to the forest and learns how to live off the land. So that shaped a lot of Runaways, where Hannah is telling us the names of the different plants and animals and their scientific names. Was really inspired by a lot of this book and me growing up in exploring the woods as a kid. And The Mystic Files of Miss Basil E. Frank Weiler is just a really funny book about two kids running away to New York City and living in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So I just wanted to have copies of my own. Wonder, that's another book that I really love and is nostalgic for me. And The Invention of Hugo Cabret. If you haven't read this is a gorgeously illustrated book. And it's told in two pieces. It's told partially through illustrations done in graphite pencil, kind of like a graphic novel or a comic book, following Hugo and his story. And then it's partially told through text, which gives more context and more depth to the pictures that you're seeing. And that fills you in on the rest of the narrative. So even though it looks like a huge, very long, very intimidating book, the actual text of it is maybe, that much. And it's very steampunk. It takes place in the golden age of, the very beginning of movie making. It's very whimsical and dreamlike, and I love this a lot. So I was very excited to find a copy of it in such good condition, because I remember reading this at the library as a kid, and the binding had been read so many times by so many children that it was completely falling apart, and entire sections of the book were like falling out. So I was super happy to find a copy of this in such good condition at the Half Price Books for $12. For $6 actually. Some other childhood nostalgia books, Harriet the Spy. If you haven't read this, I don't really know how to explain it to you, but it's really fun. It's about a girl who just keeps a journal on all the kids in her class and the shenanigans that ensue from that. And then Story Thieves, which is about two characters that can jump in and out of books, and the fictional comes into the real world and they have to deal with the aftermath. I think this is a 5-book series, and I have never found the rest of the series. I read this in a Barnes & Noble's once when I was a kid waiting for my mom to get out of an appointment. Got like this far through the book and then had to buy it because I'd read most of it in the store and I needed to know how it ended. And so I have a very fond memory of this being like one of the first books that I bought for myself. So I have a copy of it on my old Kindle, which died, and so now I actually own a paperback copy for the first time. We also got a nonfiction book called Diary of an Apprentice Astronaut, which just seemed really interesting. It tells the story of an astronaut during her time on the International Space Station. Go with the nonfiction. And something we both really like to do is in our college library, where we met, they used to have National Geographic magazines. They would have a huge stack of them, and we would read them between classes sometimes. And so there was a stack of old National Geographic magazines there, and so we picked up a bunch. This is from 2003, 1985, 1973, 1985, 1972, and another one from March 1985. So, a couple for our own collection. And then something I was most excited about were the Spiderwick Chronicles books. They didn't have the whole series there, they just had books 2, 4, and 5. But this was the series that inspired Runaways and the world building of Runaways. It's about children who find a field guide to fairyland, and the adventures that ensue from that. And they have illustrations by Tony D. Terlizzi, who is one of the illustrators behind a lot of the D&D source material books. And I think that they're absolutely gorgeous. They're really small little books, but the world building in these stories really shaped my imagination of what fairyland is and how fairyland works. And I haven't had a copy of them of my own. I always read them from the library, and so I'm really, really happy that I was able to get my hands on a couple of these books, because as I go into the final stages of editing for Runaways, I wanted to have a set of these for reference for things like typography, illustration reference material, formatting, layout, because I want Runaways to harken back to the feeling that these books gave for me whenever I read them when I was a kid. So I'm very happy that I at least got a couple of these books. I'm sure that I can find books 1 and 3 at a different half-price book somewhere else, because there's so many other locations, and so then I can complete the series at some point. And also find a version of the field guide, which was the companion to the series itself that inspired all of this. But yeah, that's all that we've got in the box. And I will go back to writing at some point, but thank you for this brief aside.